Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Spotlight. I'm Mike Kenichi, and real happy tonight because as a Derby graduate, it's always exciting when you see that something new is going to begin, and we do have a new beginning in Derby for Derby football, of course. And this guy has, a lot of great credentials. He's been everywhere you could imagine. He's even coached overseas, had a tremendous playing career at Middletown, and now he is the new head football coach for the Derby Red Raiders. And it is my honor to introduce Coach Stone Belzo. And Coach, I want to thank you for giving me a few minutes today. I really appreciate
Yeah,
it.
thank you for having me on. Just excited to talk about the program, everything that's going to go into it, and all those type of stuff. Really excited.
Right. And Coach, you had a tremendous football career, but let me ask you, when you were playing, was there ever did it ever enter your mind that you might want to be a coach someday?
Well, it's funny that you asked that question. I always think back. So you remember when you used to be in elementary school and middle school, and they used to have you write your goals for kind of what you wanted to do in life and whatever else. I remember I was always kind of interesting for me because I would always write I wanted to be a football coach. And the reason why that kind of started for me, especially at a young age, I have a brother who's 2 years older than me. Um, and my dad used to coach him all the way up from his first year of football all the way up into his last. And I just remember I wasn't old enough to play football yet, so I just kind of followed him around on the sidelines. I would have a clipboard in the game. I always tell this funny story too. Just thinking about how I've always wanted to coach is my brother had a game and they were playing against Newington, and I remember my brother was running for a touchdown to seal the game and seal the victory, and he sticks his finger up like this, celebrating as he's running into the end zone. Well, he ends up getting tackled. We ended up not scoring. And Hunter, my brother Hunter's gonna laugh and hate me for telling the story, but he gets tackled. They don't score. They end up losing the football game. I remember I'm probably about 4 or 5 years old. I remember snapping the clipboard over my knee after the game, and I'm going off on the team and everything like that. And then that's kind of where I got the motivation to coach is from just seeing my dad do it and being around the game. And it's a funny story, and that's kind of always viewed it. Even just watching games on TV, like love watching coaches when I was younger, seeing different guys like Coach Bill Belichick, seeing Nick Saban, like, and even guys now who I watch and kind of study from, like guys like Dan Lanning, who I think is a good person who I kind of look into just off of the culture and the philosophy things that he brings to the table. So I mean, that's kind of how I got into coaching. So
Yeah. And Coach, I always wonder about this. Is it an advantage when you're a quarterback? Does that really help you, become successful as a coach? Because as a quarterback, especially on offense, you have to know where everybody's assignment is, where they're
mhm.
going, how to run the play properly. I mean, did you feel like being a quarterback gave you a slight advantage as a coach?
I think it did. I think more in the leadership aspect, and I think the X's and O's aspect to it. Because I was always that guy who's asking why and asking why are we doing this, why are we doing that? Because I was just obviously always curious about coverages when I was playing and just wanted to know what everybody's job was. I think from the quarterback position, it more fell down to the leadership qualities I think that I bring to the table. Just because when you're the quarterback of a football team, you have to be calm, cool, and collected. You're the guy that's standing on that ship and you're spinning the wheel, right? You're gonna be what gets everything going. So being put in that position, it kind of taught me and and made me understand if something goes bad, you can't just lose your mind, be out of control. Now, what's going to happen is everybody who's watching you, those 10 other guys on the offense, maybe those 30 other guys on the sideline, are now seeing that and what's going to happen to their demeanor, what's going to happen to their thought process on the game. So when things go bad, it's all about, hey, confidence, flip to the next page, get over it, right? Don't dwell on things. And I think that kind of was the big thing that kind of, having that connection between coaching and playing the quarterback position. I think that was the bigger influence when it came to coaching, I would say, over the X's and O's piece.
Right. And Coach, interestingly enough, most of your coaching, you've really focused on the defensive side, and we're going to get into that. But let me ask you this. I was curious. I know you coached you coached arena football, and that's a very unique style of football. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's only 50 yards instead of 100 yards. So talk to me about that experience coaching in Idaho arena football.
Well, unique situation and unique story at the same time. So my brother ended up signing a contract to go play football there. And he wanted to have his car with him while he was out there. So I said to him, I'm not going to let you drive 36 hours by yourself. I said to him, I'll take the drive with you. I'll help you move in and help you get settled into the house, and then I'll fly out 2 days later. So we take this trip all the way. We drive to Idaho. We ended up getting into Boise. So first night we get in there, second day that I was there, he had his first practice. And at this time, I was only kind of just a student assistant working with Springfield College. And I remember I said to the head coach, I said, I coach football. I'm just curious, is there any way that I can join this and in any sort of capacity, whether I just film practices, whether you want me to be the video guy, whatever you want me to do. I just want to be a part of this process, because I thought just the dynamic and the speed of the game was unbelievable. Because again, like you're talking about a 50 yard field, and you're about 25 and a half, 26 and a half yards wide. So, and you have guys coming in motion, running from 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage, full speed sprint. Now imagine if you're a safety and you're playing man-to-man on the number 2 receiver and he has a 10-yard sprint at you. But anyways, so that I kind of just love the way the game was. So I ended up signing to be the video guy. So I would film practice and whatever else. I remember I called my mom and my dad. I said, hey, I got to cancel my flight on Monday. I ended up getting a job. And they were like, oh my God, what's going on? Whatever. So I ended up being the video guy. I would film practices. I would do like the social media posts that they had online. I would do all those type of stuff. I remember it was week 3 of the football season. We lost a game. I think we lost by like 40 points, whatever it was. And this is where kind of my coaching kind of kicked in a little bit. I remember I drove to the head coach's house for the football team, who was also the owner of the league. Drove to his house. I knocked on his front door, and he's kind of looking at me like, what the hell are you doing at my house? And I'm like, hey, coach, can we sit down and can we just watch film for a little bit? I just kind of want to talk to you about the game. We start this conversation. Long story short is that turned into a 4.5-hour conversation between me and this head coach. And he finally said to me, he says, you think you could install our game plan for this upcoming game? And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like, yeah, I would love to. I'd install the game plan. We went to practice that same day. I ended up presenting the game plan to the defense. And at this time, the defensive coordinator who was there already was kind of on the fence of whether or not he was going to leave the organization or not. So then installed a game plan. The defensive coordinator decided to step down, which then turned me into the full-time defensive coordinator for the rest of the season. We ended up having the number 1 defense in the conference, made it to the championship game, played a team from Tri-Cities. They were averaging about 62 points a game. Now, like in arena football, that's a common thing sometimes, scoring 40, 50, 60 points. They were averaging 60 points a game. It was the fourth quarter. We entered the game. It was a 19-14 game. And then they ended up holding on to win that game, which was a tough loss. But that experience was also unique because when I got hired as the video guy, I lived in the house with the players. So I became the defensive coordinator. I'm also living in the house with the players. Now that becomes that piece of like the relationship aspect. And you also got to think, these guys that were playing, this is professional football. So everybody's at least 5, 6, 10 years older than me. I'm 21 years old. And the youngest guy on the team, I think, was 25, which was my brother and somebody else. So I was able to maintain that relationship within the house. We were having film studies at 10 o'clock at night, like, hey, put in the group chat, everybody meet in the living room, 9:30, 10 o'clock, watch film, break it down. And then it would be interesting because it's like you would rip a guy in film, and then 5 minutes later, you guys are standing in the kitchen next to each other and you're cooking eggs and you guys are living together. But it was awesome. It was a great experience. I enjoyed it. I love being out there. But yeah, the whole situation was just a unique situation from how it started to the living situation to everything else. It was a good time.
Right. And coach, I think it's good when you start your career and you move around a little bit. You coach different programs, and you coached over in Switzerland, which is just an unbelievable thing. And how was that experience? Because describe to me the difference between American football and then football overseas. What's the difference?
So I would say the difference between football here and I think the difference between football in Europe is the quarterback position is a huge difference between the two. Because a lot of times like in Europe, they have tremendous football players. Um, I think what they're really good at up there is they have big people up front. They have physical guys who play up front. You'll get some teams who have good backs, good receivers. I think the difference though between the two is the quarterback position. Because I think when you're in Europe, if you're in a 10-team league, you're in an 8-team league, you're probably going to have 2 teams, 3 teams who have a serious quarterback who can sling the ball. So the style of football is a little bit different. It's more leaned on a little bit of the run game. Teams will try to pass the ball and try to get it around. But like I said, when you struggle at the quarterback position, you're having no option but running the football. So a lot of it was heavy on that. But if you have a team who has an imported quarterback, because that's another thing they do, because teams get imports. So you can sign 3 people from the United States, get them on the team. So some people do the quarterback position, whatever else. But it's different. I think also the speed is different. Here it's a lot faster. Out there it's a little bit slower, but I think it's more physical. Like not
Right.
more physical than here, but it's really physical there. Like there's guys banging every single time someone gets the ball. Like I said up front, they're big, they're physical, they're solid. But yeah, it was kind of the difference over there, but tremendous experience. Played against a lot of good teams and stuff like that. Being able to see a different country, different areas I never even imagined that I was going to see before in my life. But again, that was also a unique situation because my brother signed there and I came in on a visit to go watch him play football. And lo and behold, I ended up getting signed as the defensive coordinator to coach there as well too. And that was a great experience. Even too, just thinking about the playoffs, I was there for about 6 or 7 games, but thinking about the playoffs, we only gave up 3 points in the whole entire playoffs, which was an awesome thing for us. But yeah, that was an awesome situation as well too.
Right. And coach, it's very you know, it's not every day that somebody young like yourself becomes a defensive coordinator for big time programs in high school football. And yet you became the defensive coordinator at New Britain. I believe the defensive backs coach as well. So, I mean, I would think those experiences in Idaho, Switzerland, they really helped because coaches could see on your resume that you were doing a great job as the defensive coordinator. But just describe the time at New Britain, because New Britain is a very well-respected program for so many years in high school football.
Yeah, that was an awesome experience. That's a interesting experience as well too, because my dad actually was friends with somebody on the coaching staff at New Britain. His name was Bob Scalise. They had a job opening on the staff, and my dad said, "Hey, can I just have my son come down and have him interview for any position openings that you have and whatever else?" Went down there and interviewed, and me and the head coach at New Britain, Isaiah Bodie, who's a near and dear friend of mine, me and him can talk on the phone right now for 2.5 hours and just talk about football and talk about, just whatever. Me and him hit it off right away. And me and him had conversations. I worked with the secondary and everything like that. And he had trusted in me, and he allowed me the opportunity to be able to call the defense within my first year of being there, which I did for the next 3 seasons. It was an awesome experience. I mean, because the year before I got there, they were a 1-9 football team. They were struggling. And kind of Coach Bodie had me have a big emphasis on culture and being able to teach different things. And one thing that I emphasize even now, obviously, with just the way I teach the kids and what our culture is going to be and everything else, is we break it down into a lot of different phases. And that was something that I kind of started at New Britain, was having different phases that teach you how to be mentally tough, and it teaches you qualities to have as a person, and teaches you goal setting. Like, and you're going to be taught all those different things. Like, for example, like our acronym that we're always going to live by, and what we're going to live by in Derby football is our WIN acronym. And we break that down. So what does WIN mean? Well, the W, we talk about will to win and be to become the best version of yourself. We talk about the I, we talk about being intentional in everything that we do. Well, how do we become intentional? Have a plan, take steps, set goals, be able to put yourself in that right direction. And the last thing we talk about is never be out of control. And never be out of control to me is the biggest thing that you can have as a person. Just because I say this all the time to the kids when we talk about never being out of control, is I ask this question, I say, what's the two things that you can control in life? What's the only two things? And that's your attitude and that's your effort. So how you wake up every single day and you have the decision and you decide how you're going to attack that day. Are you going to give it your 100%, or are you going to take that day off, or are you going to waste that day and lose an opportunity? So my experience in New Britain, I kind of got into that a little bit more. And obviously, Isaiah Bodie, he's a mastermind when it comes to motivating and being able to connect the kids and everything else. And I learned so much, and I continue to learn from him all the time. But those qualities that we taught them, that me and Coach Bodie put together and worked on, like, it showed progress, because we go from a 1-9 football team, we went 5-5, and then we went 6-4, made the playoffs, lost to West Haven in the quarterfinals. The following year after that, we go 8-2, we make the quarterfinals, and we end up losing to Greenwich. And then now those standards and those expectations and those things that we go over, Bodie is consistent with those kids. So the year after I left, they became a 9-1 football team. They were the number one team in Class L. So looking at my time in New Britain, that experience really kind of brought together what I want as a culture, what I want for our expectations, what I want for our standards. And that was a tremendous experience, being able to work with those kids. I still talk to the kids all the time. I live in New Britain, so I'll bump into them at the gym, or I'll see them at the grocery store, and talk to these kids all the time. So that was an awesome experience.
Right. And Coach, even though obviously it's short-lived, you got to come back to Middletown for a year. Just talk about that year with Middletown, coming back to your old stomping grounds.
Yeah, I think that was a special opportunity. I think so. One of my best friends too, Dario Highsmith, played with him my freshman year of high school. My brother played with him for about 2 to 3 years. Him and my brother have been best friends since 7th, 8th grade, and me and him have a tremendous relationship. He ended up getting the head coaching job there, contacting me about being the defensive coordinator, and why not go back to where it all started. And jumped on that opportunity to be able to work with him. And even at that time, Middletown High was a struggling football team. The year before, they were 3-7. You look back to the last 6 seasons that they had, their best season was maybe 4-6. So they weren't in the playoffs for an 8-year stretch, which isn't Middletown. So being able to get back there was awesome, and did the same exact recipe that I learned at New Britain. Was going through those phases, going through different things, learning how to create those qualities as a person. Now we went from a 3-7 football team the previous year that I got there to then we were now 7-3, making the quarterfinals, and we lost a tough game in Newington 12-0, which was a tough game. But again, just being able to be a part of that one season there and being able to flip 3-7 to 7-3, and having a defense last year where statistically it was one of the best defenses that I've had, and we gave up 12 and a half points a game. We got after it. We were fast. We were physical. We were fearless. But that whole experience was awesome. And then after that season, I have the desire, I have the passion, and I said it. After that season was over, I reflected to myself, because again, talking about goal setting, I set a 5-year plan for myself when I was 21 years old. When I was 21 years old, I had a 5-year plan. My number one goal on that 5-year plan was to become a head coach. So after that season was over in Middletown, I said to myself, like, hey, I got this 5-year plan. I got to achieve this 5-year plan. I saw that Derby was open. Talked to a lot of people who work at my school and with me and everything like that. and just learned about the history of the program, hearing about how the golden years of the program, when you look at it even back from the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 90s, and how dominant the program was. And just hearing about the community and just hearing about how much people support and love the program and want to be around it. It was something that having those conversations with people who I work with and hearing about the program. And once I saw the opening for the job, I said to myself, I said, this would be an awesome opportunity. And obviously, everything worked out in the best possible way.
Right. And Coach, I'm glad that you talked about the history of the program. So obviously you did your research before you applied, which is important because, I think a kid who's 20 years old, he's not going to understand Derby's success because they've had a lot of down years recently. But Derby was a very, they were probably top 5 best teams in the state of football from the 60s till the early 1990s. So, I mean, you obviously did your research on that. Talk to me, though. I mean, did you realistically think you would have a shot to get that job? Because, listen, when it's your first time applying for a head coaching job and you're a young man, you always think, okay, maybe this one may not work out. Did you have a good feeling after that first interview?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that question just because I came in for my interview. Obviously, you're going to have those jitters a little bit walking in and whatnot. And I sat down in the main office and me and the secretary started to have a conversation. I wish I could remember her name. But I'm terrible with names sometimes. But anyways, me and her just started having a conversation. She introduced herself. I introduced myself, where are you from? Normal conversation. We started talking about our dogs and showing photos of each other's dogs, and whatever else. I felt, and it just felt comfortable when I first came in. And then when I met Jen, the AD, she was very welcoming, and just being able to just sit down in the meeting with everybody else who was involved with it. I just felt really, really comfortable, and I felt really good coming out of that first interview. I mean, I even called my brother right after. I said, there's something about this place that just feels good. It's a comforting feeling. It's a great feeling. I just kind of love the atmosphere of everything. And I felt awesome. And then just obviously being able to go back up for my second interview, and that kind of, to me, after my second interview, I said to my brother and I said to my mom and I said to my girlfriend, like, this is the place that I want to be. And then was blessed enough to get a call 24 hours after that second time I was up there, and got the call from the AD, and she said she offered me the job. And I was kind of just shocked with a lot of emotion because, again, this is something that I've worked so hard to get to, and this is something that I've put together in my 5-year plan and what I wanted to achieve, and being able to do that, and especially being at the program that it's at, I couldn't have asked for a better opportunity.
Right. And Coach, I had the fortunate pleasure to be there the night they officially hired you. And it was very nice. All your family came down for that. And I could see like people introducing themselves to you, which is very important. It makes a new coach feel welcome. And just talk about that night, being there at the board meeting when they introduce you as the new head coach, and just talk to me about meeting some of the players as well.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start just talking and meeting some of the players. Met with 5 of the kids that are on the football team. Met the quarterback. Met the kid who played wing last year. Met the nose tackle as well, and kind of I probably talked to those kids 20, 30-minute conversation. And one thing that stood out to me the most is, from that conversation with the kids, is just they just want to be successful. And I think that's the biggest thing that stood out to me when I had that conversation with the kids, is like they want to get in the weight room. They're telling me that they want to lift, they want to work out, they want to do all these other sort of things, which to me is a great sign. Just because, again, like I'm going to push these kids to the max. And I think, and I told them that as well too. I said, if we want to be a successful football team and we want to be what we wish in our mind to be, we're going to have to go on above and beyond what normal people do. we're gonna have to, and that's attacking in the weight room, that's attacking at practice, and that's attacking in life. All right. It's about making that. And I explained this to them and had a small conversation of how we're going to live and what our standard is going to be. And that was an awesome conversation. And then just even too, just meeting some of the other people in the community as well. And and another thing that just stands out to me is just how welcoming, everybody has been, and everybody's embraced me with open arms. And, it's been tremendous. And just talking to the alumni as well too. And I remember a funny thing. The guy comes up to me. He says, I wish I remembered his name. He says to me, he goes, "Hey, I'm glad you have a red sweater on." And then he looks at me and he says, "Yeah, you can't wear black." And it was funny because me and the athletic director had that conversation. And she said to me, she said, "You can only wear red. You can only wear white." So I made that a point to make sure I had the right color on when I went there for the board meeting. But it was awesome conversations, being able to talk to people in the community. And I think the biggest thing for me in my plan with the program and just how the process is going to go, first and foremost is obviously community outreach, being able to just meet with business owners and being able to build that connection. But I think another big piece is, and I mentioned this in the interview process as well, is being able to have a revitalized program with the football program. So one of the things that we did at Springfield College, and again, I got to look more into it, but what we did at Springfield College is a revitalized program. So we would go out with our football jerseys on, or we would have our football gear, shirts on, or whatever it was, and we would go around and we would cut somebody's front lawn. We would clean up a park. We would do a bunch of different activities like that, because I just want to be able to get the football community and the kids and everybody else all on the same page, and being able to get everybody involved, having shout outs at games for different businesses, being able to have signs up at the stadium, having shout outs, alumni shout outs, and having everything community based. And I think even too, just even talking about that, and I think another thing that I'm going to put an emphasis on is the connection between the youth football program and the high school program. I think having a big emphasis with that, because again, from just some of the conversations, just being able to boost and improve the youth football program in the city and in the town. So I think meeting with the coaches in the program and getting on the same page with a lot of stuff, and having youth football camps twice a week, 3 times a week, and that's something that I want to do. And we'll just the plan is to have a Raider Day, and try to figure out days for that. But anybody in the community who's from the ages 5 to 13, it doesn't matter if you play football or if you don't play football, being able to come out, have the football players run the drills, I'll control the time and the whistle, being able to get them on the football field, being able to see the high school kids in those leadership roles, and being able to bring as many people in the community out as we possibly can, and not just one time, but just trying to be able to do it multiple times, maybe 2 times in a month, whatever works out for the schedule and whatever days those could be. But being able to build those two things, I think, is the number one thing that I want to do. And just having alumni already reach out to me. A guy named Paul Sheehy reached out to me, and me and him had a good conversation. He was just talking about, alumni wanting to be involved into the program. And I wouldn't be able to have alumni who are a part of this football program be a part of it as much as I possibly can get them to be. Get that support back in the building, get it all around, and being able to even too. And I think the big thing is having alumni come in and speak to the team who have been a part the years of Coach DiFilippo and all the other years that they had, and have those type of guys come in and talk about what success looked like in this program and what they did to achieve that. And I think those are the big things that I want to be able to create and I want to be able to do right away.
And Coach, I think that's the thing that will stand out the most about you. And when I saw them hire you and stuff, is you believe in the tradition and you respect it and appreciate it. And that's what needs to be done, because the kids of today that are playing, they need to know that they're playing for a program that has a lot of rich and tradition that comes with it. And by the way, the guy that said, I'm glad you're wearing a red shirt, that was Tom Lionetti. And believe me, he came right up to you that night. I remember that, but he was the one who said it. But I think that that's the most important thing is really to, give them a history lesson on what Derby football is all about. And I think having, like you said, alumni coming in and speaking to the kids, it's something that is just, it's the start of trying to really build this program. And I think you have you have the right attitude, and that's going to go a long way. So I'm really glad that you said that.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, again, just Googling the school when I first was going to interview and just seeing the history of it, and I got a great friend of mine, Mr. T, who works with me at Slade Middle School. He's a social worker. He had some family who was a part of the Derby football program, kind of knows the history of it. He would talk about how he used to go to games all the time, and he was a big person who kind of influenced me to apply to this job in the first place. Was off of the tradition and the history of the program and everything like that, which really sparked my attention and really wanted me to look more into the program. And again, like I said, being able to hear those type of things, like, let's get these alumni back in the building and let's get the traditions back to what it once was. Let's get it. Why not Derby? And that's kind of why those are my two biggest things that I kind of want to kind of get into place in these next couple months.
Right. And Coach, let me ask you this. I think it's also important to recognize the alumni, get them involved. But do you want to, like, also, at one time, I know they had the Derby Football Club. I don't really know if they have it now, but they did at one time. Do you kind of want to bring something like that back where people are getting involved, especially like with the banquet and stuff, having people involved with that? Because the more you have the former alumni there, the more it's going to feel like to everybody that it's Derby football through and through. I mean, is that something you've thought about as well?
It is something that I thought about, and that's something that I want to get started, and that's something that I would love to do. Once I kind of get myself into the building and everything, and kind of just start reaching out to different people and being able to kind of set those things up. But yeah, that is definitely something that I want to do. Just, again, more hands on deck, more people involved, and who were a part of this program, like we're talking about in the alumni, being able to get all hands on deck from all areas. If being able to do that is going to be awesome. So once I get in the building at some point by this week or whatever this weather is going to do for this week, I have no idea. And really start to hone in on those type of things and get that all set up. So,
right. And Coach, I know it's hard because you just got hired this past Thursday, but let me ask you, this is like a two-part question. Number one, because it's your first year, will you call both the offense and defense? And number two, do you have a coaching staff in place yet, or do you have a good idea, at least where you want to go with that?
Yeah. So the plan is, so my brother's going to be the offensive coordinator. He's had experience, just assistant offensive coordinator in Middletown, the assistant offensive coordinator working with the OC there in New Britain, being able to have his quarterback background and everything like that. And one thing about him is he's a tremendous football mind. And one thing why I trust him in that role of being able to call the offenses is just because the system that he wants to run and the system that he wants to bring into this program, which he's been working a long time for, putting it together, perfectly fits kind of what we want and what we need specifically in the Derby football program. And having him be the offensive coordinator, I'm still going to coach the defense. I'm going to call the defense for this season. I have a great defensive assistant with me as well, who's Brady Foster. He was the defensive line coach with me in Middletown. Very knowledgeable when it comes to the defensive side of the ball. He even had past experience working with the offensive line as well at Middletown. But having him work with me on the defensive side of the ball, being that defensive assistant for me. And then I got a couple guys who I'm in contact with right now, just trying to lock them in. So we would have as of right now, we have our secondaries coach, but he's just got to figure out his job situation, and then he'll be in. And then having another guy who used to be the offensive coordinator at New Britain, and being able to have him come in on the staff as well and work with the offense and assist with the offense. He's going to be our game day guy in the box. He's been coaching for a very long time. He was at Wilbur-Cross. He was at New Britain. He was at Xavier for a short time. Very knowledgeable of the game. I mean, he averaged 44.5 points a game last year as an offensive coordinator at New Britain. But being able to get him in as well, too, and assist with the offense. So those are kind of the core guys right now. Want to be able to at least get 3 more guys on the coaching staff just to kind of get, obviously, more hands on deck with the assistant stuff. So I'm going to send some stuff out, get some postings out, hold some interviews. But for right now, those are kind of the core guys. So Hunter will be calling the offense. I'll be coaching the defense, have those guys there to assist.
Right. So, Coach, I know what your long-term goal is. You pretty much said it in this interview, but for 2026, what is the goal for Derby football?
I think our goal for us is build off the mental toughness and the phases that we're going to do. I think that's the big goal. Being able to understand what winning looks like, being able to understand and have a winning mindset. And I talk about the winning. When I say win, that just means will to win best version of yourself, intentional in everything that we do, and never be out of control. Being able to learn, this is the biggest goal, is being able to learn those things, right? What's pride, passion, and purpose? What's being fast, physical, and fearless? What's being a successful man? What does it look like to be? And I think that's all those things is what I want, because that's what's going to create success in the season. And that's goal number 1 for me this year, is being able to create those habits, being able to create those mindsets by the time we get to the start of the season. Because now if we can learn those traits and we can learn those things as individuals and we can learn those things as people, right? Now, if we're attacking every single day with 100% effort, and we're attacking our day with great attitude, and we have pride, passion, and purpose, and we're living by the standard and the expectations, that's all going to correlate and translate to success on the field. And I think that's the big goal for this year. Because if you can learn those traits and you can learn what it looks like to win and how to win, what's the recipe to success, that's all going to set us up in a great place for the season. And I think that's goal number 1 going into year 2026. Let's lay the foundation. Let's lay the standards. Let's lay the culture. It's not going to change. The standard will never change. It's always going to be the same. You attack the day the same way you do no matter what. And I think even too, it's like, and that's all going to correlate, because now you don't show up to class on time. That's a choice by you as an individual. You're not living up to the standard. You decide not to do homework. You decide to skip an assignment. You decide to do whatever else. That's a decision that you make. You don't want to give 100% effort at practice. You don't want to watch film, and you don't want to get ready for the next game. That's a decision that you make. So we're going to teach you in the off season, before we get to even the season starts, we're going to get those traits down as an individual. And we're going to have, and when we teach those things, we're going to have challenges, and we're going to have themes, and we're going to have things that tie into that to give you a real life example of what that looks like. So when we talk about goal number 1 for 2026, it's about let's lay the foundation, let's lay the standard, and let's get into our minds what it looks like to be a winner, what it looks like to win and live by that standard and live by that expectation.
Well, Coach, I love the excitement, the enthusiasm, the attitude. I'm happy you're here. I really think this is a great fit. And, that's the thing that we all hope as Derby fans, Derby graduates, is that we're going to have somebody that's here for the long haul. And it sounds like to me that that's your goal. This isn't, do it 3 years and I'm going to leave. This is something you want to do. You want to build it back up and get that tradition winning again. And I really applaud you for that. And I can't wait to see the season and see the things you and your coaching staff and the kids do, because I think you've got the mindset that it's a family too, and it's Derby football, and that's the attitude you need. So I really applaud you for that. I wish you the best of luck, and thank you for giving me a few minutes today.
Thank you for having me on. Love to stay in touch with you. Obviously, I'll see you around and everything like that. Thank you for having me on, man.
Yeah, definitely. And folks, it's a new era in Derby football. I think it's one that's going to be outstanding. I really do. I think Coach Belzo has, like I said, the right attitude, and he understands the importance of the tradition of Derby football, the history of it, and he's going to implement that. and he's going to let his kids see what it's all about. And he has the right mindset for this job. And we look forward to watching him on the sidelines this year and for many more years to come. For In the Spotlight, I'm Mike Kenichi. That was Coach Stone Belzo saying good night, everyone.
Thank you.